here today for Craftie Cafe, and for today's project I'm going to be creating a very simple Easter card. So I'm going to be using the Lawn Fawn Chirpy Chirp Chirp stamp set as well as the coordinating dies, the Grassy Hillside Border dies from Lawn Fawn as well as the Birch Press Stitched Egg die set, in which I realised it isn't sold in the shop, but any egg shape die set would work. Lawn Fawn has a great one, I just don't have that one yet, so I decided to just use what I owned. So to begin, I'm going to stamp out all of my images that I'm going to use. So I'm using 2 of the chicks, the little bunny hat, 2 of the flowers, the Easter basket, and also a couple butterflies. And I'm going to colour those in with Copic markers. So I first coloured in my chicks yellow, but I didn't like how yellow they were, so I end up going over them just after I do the beak and the feet. And for this I'm just using some oranges. So I'm using YR18, YR04 as my mid-tone, and Y21 as my lightest. I really love using a yellow with the oranges. It sort of lightens and brightens it up just a tad. This is where I'm going to go over my chicks, so I'm using a Y35 first and just going in where I think the darkest areas would be, then blending that out with some Y15 and then blending that all together with some Y11, and I decided to go over the whole chick just to sort of darken it up a little bit. I'm not too good with like really bright and light colours. I'm better with darker colours, so that's why I went over the chicks. I just prefer them that way. Then I'm using a few greys on the hat to make it appear more white. So I'm using W3, blending that out with W0, and then blending that all together with W00. Then for the pink and the ears, I'm going in with RV10, RV00, and RV000. And then I just went ahead and coloured the rest of the images off camera since they were really small and tiny. And now I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut these guys out. So I'm just going to run all of these through my Big Shot machine. I do have to run some of them through twice since obviously I've got 2 butterflies and 2 flowers. So once I've gone ahead and stuck all these into place, I'm just going to run that through my Big Shot machine and move on to the next step. So now I'm going to be using the Perfectly Plaid Spring paper pad from Lawn Fawn. So gorgeous. I love these paper pads so much. And I'm going to be using the one that has some pink and orange on it because I'm going to be using some blue and green for obviously the sky and the grass, so I wanted to bring in sort of the other colours that I used. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull out one of these pieces and cut it down to a smaller panel so it can fit on my card base. And now I'm going to use the largest egg die from this set, and I'm going to cut it out of the right hand side of my cardstock. So I'm going to have it overlapping the edge, so it's not going to be like a full egg shape, but you're going to definitely get the gist of what shape it is. So once I've gone ahead and ran that through my Big Shot machine, I'm going to go ahead and sort of assemble my panel together. So I've pulled out a piece of green cardstock and I'm going to use my Grassy Hillside Borders with it and just cut out a hill. So I'm going to use one of the little like wavy borders, and I'm going to run that through my Big Shot machine. Then I'm going to adhere that to the back of my panel piece. So I'm just adding a little bit of adhesive around the edges of this piece just with my tape runner adhesive, and then I'm going to adhere my grassy border on top. Then once that's all gone ahead and lined up, I'm going to add some foam tape to the back and set off to the side. Now it's time to work on the background. So this is my card base, and I've just gone ahead and masked off the edges where they need to be masked off to make sure that I have a nice clean white border. So once I've gone ahead and masked off those, I'm just going in with a little bit of tumbled glass distress ink and blending directly onto my card base. And this is exactly the reason why I don't blend just on plain white cardstock. I always blend on watercolor cardstock because it gets really splotchy and I just don't like it, but it didn't bother me. I could have redone it, but I'm just going to add an image over the top of that splotchiness, so it's no problem at all. Now I'm just adding the foam tape, and I'm going to then adhere that on to my panel after I remove the masks. So once my panel is adhered onto my background, I can start adhering on my little images. So I'm just going to have just a small scene inside of the egg and adhere the images down with a little bit of runner adhesive and also with some more foam tape just so their little heads like don't get crushed or anything like that. So I'm just going to add the adhesive on and adhere it down onto my background. Once all of my images are put into place, it's time to work on the sentiment. sentiment. So I'm just going to use a strip of black cardstock, and I'm going to white heat emboss the Chirpy Chirp Chirp sentiment onto that black strip, and then just heat set that with my heat tool. Then I'm going to cut down the edges just so it's a rectangle, super simple. You could definitely do like a fishtail or just like an angled cut, but the rectangle works just fine. And then so once I've gone ahead and done that, I'm going to mount that with some more foam tape onto my project. And then at the very end, I was deciding whether or not to stamp an additional sentiment. So I really wanted it to say like translation Happy Easter, but I didn't really have anywhere for it to go, and I didn't want it to seem cramped or anything like that. So I decided to just leave that bit of the sentiment off. You can either stamp it in, the inside of the card or whatever you like, but I decided to just leave it off. So that finishes up my Easter project for today. I hope you enjoyed. All of the supplies will be listed down below and also at the blog post, and I will catch you all next time. Thank you so much for watching.